Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Robots and Red Tape. As always, I am your host, Nick Schott. Really want to thank you all for listening and participating and being a part of this community. You're part of what makes this podcast so special and so amazing. So thank you all out there. Really happy to have a good friend of mine, Chris Anderson, on today. We're going to be talking about AI in the wine industry specifically. So if you like wine and you like AI, which is frankly should be most of you guys and gals out there, this is an episode for you. So without further ado, Chris, for those of folks out there that don't have the opportunity to know you yet, man, you tell everybody just like a little bit about yourself, your background, and kind of man how you got here.
Sure, absolutely. And Nick, thank you very much for having me on here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk AI and wine. It's a personal favorite subjects of mine. So I have a pretty deep wine background. I was a salesperson in the wine industry for about a decade at some of your favorite stores like Total Wine, Kroger. I ran the Shore Drive Kroger wine section down here for about a year and a half and then was a salesperson for, at the time, Virginia's largest wine distributor, Republic National Distributing Company.
Hmm.
I hold a CSW, Certified Specialist of Wine, as well as a WSET 3 or Wine Spirit Education Trust Level 3 in wine. It's
So for everybody that doesn't know what that is, that means you're a level three sommelier, and
not exactly, just to be
no,
clear. Yeah, just to be clear,
okay.
it's a different certification than the certified sommelier.
Hmm.
It doesn't have the service end of things. It has the knowledge and is a little more focused on the business side of things.
Okay.
But from a
Right.
knowledge standpoint, yes, it's a very
Right.
equivalent to a certified sommelier.
But when you're
And
out at
for those
dinner,
who have, yeah, when I'm
it's
at a
like,
dinner, yeah, I have been a som in restaurants because that is a
mhm,
job. I have done that before. I've also been a bartender. So I worked at all three levels of the wine industry.
mhm.
I have also worked at the IRS most recently before coming back into the wine industry, which gives me a little unique perspective into taxes and compliance.
Uh-huh.
And how I got back into the industry is an interesting story. I'll keep it brief. I got doged.
Uh-huh.
So given the opportunity to explore other employment avenues, and right here in my hometown, Vivino's largest shipper asked me to come and do some work for them to help them with compliance in wine. Specifically, they were having problems. They were using the incumbent in the industry to process what they have to do. Little background.
Uh-huh.
You've ordered wine online, right, Nick?
Yeah, once or twice.
Super duper easy, right?
Uh-huh.
Put your credit card in, it just shows up at your door. Someone over 21 has to sign. It's the only real caveat. The wine shipper who actually has to send that to you, the wine club or the wine place that ships online,
Uh-huh.
they have to send a report to every single state that they ship to for every shipment that they make every single month. It is what is an onerous process. A mid-sized winery is estimated to file about 1,000 reports a year if they are active in all 48 states that they're allowed to ship to. Easily, they're spending, one person is easily spending 40 to 80 hours a month on this, where
Uh-huh.
this is their job
Uh-huh.
to look at what people have bought and to send a report to the state. So this shipper, they were having problems dealing with this because it's an onerous process.
Uh-huh.
They were taking their reports, their sales reports, sending them, reformatting them, sending off to Ship Compliant, who they're the largest provider of compliance services in this industry. And they were getting those reports back from Ship Compliant, having to reformat them into every state's format. And here's the kicker: many states require a zip to county conversion to make sure that they've sent it to the right county because certain counties have different excise taxes,
Uh-huh.
such as Cook County in Illinois has a different excise tax than the rest of Illinois. There's a couple counties in New York that are like that. And then there are, of course, dry or semi-dry counties in different parts, different states. Quite an onerous process.
Uh-huh.
So the bookkeeper, this is all she spent her time doing,
Right.
right? So what I did for them, I built a product that we now call a compliance vine that
Uh-huh.
takes all those reports and transforms them into the state reports that they need in about 5 minutes instead of the 80 hours they were spending on it.
That's amazing. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and I having just recently held a big event in January about a month ago, having I understand the level of effort that goes into like wine and alcohol controls, right? I had to go apply for a liquor license, and then I had to tell them where I was, but like I had to tell DC government where I was buying everything, and so like it was a whole thing, right? And so I can imagine that it's even more so as you look at counties and states and especially if you're dealing with things at scale, right? If you're selling, 1,000 bottles of wine a month, I assume that every single thing needs to be itemized down to the specific bottles and what was bought by whom, where, and everything. So I can imagine like that would be a huge process.
Yes, it is essentially what winemakers do other than make wine is
Hmm.
manage the regulatory aspects of the business as well as the regular aspects of the business. It's still a business.
Hmm.
It's a farming business more than anything.
Yeah.
So they have to deal with weather and they have to deal with the you know, vagrancies related to those things. And on top of that, they have the federal requirements that they have to do for registrations of their products, their
Hmm.
federal licensing. Then they have their in-state licensing for the registration of their products, the excise taxes that they pay, the controls at the local level. And then if they ship cross-border, because wine is all alcohol is regulated at the state level due to the remnants of prohibition in the three-tier system.
What is the three tier?
They have to then deal with the other states. The three-tier system is essential to understand how complicated the compliance and regulatory aspects of alcohol are in this country.
Okay.
So, what the three-tier system it says is that there are three aspects to the alcohol business. There are the people who make alcohol, wine growers, the names you see on the bottles, Jim Beam, they're actually owned by other companies, but whatever. The spirits producers, Budweiser, etc. They make a product. They have to sell that product to a distributor.
Mm-hmm.
The distributor then sells that product to the retailer or the restaurant. The retailer or the restaurant then sells that product to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
All those levels along the way, those three tiers are tracked by every single state. Some
Mm-hmm.
states actually own a certain level of that tier. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, in Mississippi, as an example, the state is the distributor,
Mm-hmm.
just as one example. In some states, they allow a little more direct distribution from the producer to the consumer, and you can skip some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Wineries were able to really make a change to that system starting in the 1970s when the wine revolution really happened in this country, where you had people coming out to visit wineries and wanting to buy products directly from them. So some of the laws loosened up for a direct to consumer market to
Mm-hmm.
go from producer direct to consumer.
Right.
During COVID, a lot of people are at home. They couldn't buy from their restaurants, their retailers. So, of course, the direct to consumer market exploded. It is
Mm-hmm.
now facing certain headwinds. It was over a $5 billion US market. It's now more like a $4 billion US market.
Mm-hmm.
So it has faced some headwinds in terms of people have moved back to their more traditional purchasing patterns,
Mm-hmm.
except they're purchasing more or higher priced wine online.
Mm-hmm.
The average price per bottle has actually gone up over $56 per bottle, according to the latest report,
Over what time period?
over the past couple of years. And the overall sales have decreased, but the price per bottle has increased. So you're
Okay.
having this, and I always mispronounce it, a bifurcation or splitting of the market,
Yeah.
where the traditional wine if
Bifurcation?
yeah, you
Yeah.
said it, not me.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Got you, brother.
Appreciate it. Where the traditional wine or the grocery store local wine consumer is going back to purchasing those products there.
Hmm.
And they are purchasing price per bottle is actually going down a little bit. And those are the ones where you see the numbers coming in or say, oh, people are drinking less. That's where those numbers are coming from.
Hmm.
Whereas the direct to consumer market, the price per bottle has increased where people are buying higher quality wine online.
Is it higher quality or is it just more expensive? Oh.
Yes, and yes is
Hmm.
probably the best way to describe that. So a lot of the pricing of wine is not tied to how it tastes to you as a consumer. It is tied to where it's produced, the cost of the land that it's on, what it costs to make the wine, the process that goes into it, whether it's a very hand driven process, hand harvested, hand sorted, or if it's a more mechanical process.
Hmm.
The larger mass producers are able to mechanize a lot of process, reduce their costs. They may not use as high quality of a land to produce the grapes on.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean that what you like or what an individual likes is good or bad because it's X price per bottle. A $50 bottle might be awful to you
Hmm.
because you don't like that wine. But
Yep.
you might love a beautiful $10 cheap Moscato or something.
Hmm.
That's perfectly good. There's a wine for everybody, I like to say. For those who say, "Oh, I don't like wine," I just figure you've never tried a wine you like more than anything else.
Right.
And there's a lot more options coming into the market in terms of like low alcohol, non-alcohol, or de-alcoholized wine. I had a really delicious, sparkling, non-alcohol or de-alcoholized blueberry. It uses Chardonnay as the base, but it had a blueberry juice added to it. It was quite delicious.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago at the Maryland Wine Growers Association.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
also had a beautiful Albarino, a more traditional Spanish white, because you can do anything you want in America in your wine growing as long as it'll grow here. You don't have to
Mhm.
follow the same rules as you do in the old world rules. So,
Right, because there's a whole I know that there's a lot of process and tradition around wine production in places like Italy and France and Spain and Portugal. Primarily those. I assume Austria and Germany as well, but I know a lot less
yes.
about those ones.
And the best way to describe that is there are production rules, just to simplify,
Mhm.
tied to where they're located. So
Okay.
when you see an Italian bottle of wine and it has the letters on it, either DOC or DOCG, it means that it is held to controls for that area to set, not that you'll like it, but that it meets the quality controls for
Hmm.
the governing body. And that's a lot of what you see on those wine labels that we as Americans don't necessarily learn unless you're in the industry,
Right.
is the difference between and why that wine is priced so expensive from this area versus in area, a Chianti versus a Chianti Classico.
Hmm.
You may personally enjoy a Chianti just as much as you enjoy a Chianti Classico.
Hmm.
Chianti Classico just means it comes from the heart, the classic in the kind of
Hmm.
American speak area of Chianti, and it has met all the requirements
Hmm.
to be a Classico, which
Hmm.
are above the requirements for being a regular Chianti. They
Okay.
may have even come from the same grapes,
Hmm.
but the winemaker was able to choose the avenue for
Hmm.
selling his or her product that fit best. That's
Yeah.
why you see some pricing that you as a wine drinker may not always make sense, especially if you're relatively new to, like, why is this, wine that I like only cost $8, but I'm told this $50 wine is so good, but I just don't like it.
Hmm.
That's just personal flavor profiles.
Right.
That's all
Absolutely.
that is. But why it costs 50 versus 10 is
Hmm.
largely location and production.
Yeah.
And I hope that clarifies it without me being too long-winded.
No, man, it absolutely does. It's kind of like the standards around in the bourbon industry to be coded, to be bottled and bond, right? There's a standard that you meet that is a government certified, government defined or governing body defined standard of production, how it's produced, where it's produced, what it's made of, the quality associated with it, which is a problem. And I'd assume it was a much bigger problem like 100 years ago when a lot of these things came out and there were a lot less standards around food production and food quality overall, right?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of what the standards are tied to that to try to create
Mhm.
quality standards.
Right.
To say, hey, if you're going to put you're from our area, you have to
Mhm.
be at least this good.
Right.
And certain countries will and certain areas will have very very, very defined requirements,
Mhm.
such as you have to have a limited production per land, and you have to age the wine for a certain amount of time to meet these label requirements.
Mhm.
Spanish wine is notorious, is not notorious, but is most well known for that. That in order to have a reserva name, it has to be aged a certain amount. Whether
Okay.
it's Rioja or a different part of Spain, or the rules are a little different. But if
Mhm.
just know that if it has a reserva or a grand reserva title from Spain, that means that it's been aged a
Okay.
bit longer
Mhm.
than the ones that are labeled Joven or unlabeled as
Okay.
that. And
Yeah.
why those are priced higher is
Mhm.
because it takes longer to age, and you lose some of the wine in the aging process.
Yeah.
The
The angel.
angel share, yes, as they refer to it in different alcohol making industries, the angel share,
Mhm.
where just some is lost. And part of that is to allow the concentration of flavors.
Mhm.
So there's a purpose to why that is done. It's most notable in the longer aged things like the sherries or whiskeys
Mhm.
that are aged
Yeah.
30, 40 years,
Mhm.
where if you have had the pleasure of trying a fine scotch that's been aged 30 or 40 years, you will notice an intense concentration of flavors.
Mhm. Yeah. No, and yeah, it's super interesting. But thinking about the in like the compliance side of the industry, obviously you have your experience with the IRS, and that gives you that insight into it, or a different perspective on it. Why do you think that in today's day and age, that the like reporting and compliance is so manual within this industry still?
I think more than anything, inertia,
Hmm.
and the technology hasn't really been there. I think the wine industry is it's populated by people who love wine.
Hmm.
Generally, there's only two or three types of people I've seen in the industry. You're either born into it, in which case you're born into it. You understand the business growing up. You're from a visceral level there at the very beginning, or you come into it because you love wine.
Hmm.
Those are the most common ways I know people have come into the industry. So they're largely passionate artisans that are making the product and
Hmm.
selling the product, which is great. That's what you want people to. I want my artists to be passionate about the art that they make. And if that art is beautiful and tastes amazing, great.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a big nerd.
Hmm.
And I'm a data person and tech person. So I have this odd combination of skills. And so when I look at the industry, I see an industry that has sat on its laurels, quite frankly, for a long time when
Hmm.
it comes to a technology standpoint, because they haven't been forced to. And a lot is being forced upon them now, the combination of AI, as well as there's a lot happening in the industry itself that where this is happening.
Hmm.
Some of it is the regulations themselves are getting tighter, where the states are being heavier with their enforcement, and the EU is coming in with their privacy restrictions, as well as some additional restrictions there. And of course, we have the tariff issues with products coming from outside the U.S. here, and then you have the natural cycles of population, where people say, millennials and Gen Z are drinking less. It's more likely they're doing what other generations have done is they're drinking lighter, sweeter
So
things until they mature.
you can talk about Gen Z not drinking as much as much as you'd like. Millennials are the we drink more than any other generation. Just so you
I just don't
right.
believe that when they say that they're not drinking less. I think it's more just they're not
Hmm.
old enough to be into this category of drinker. You don't, and generally in the US, you don't start really drinking wine till you're mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And you usually start light and sweet, and then your taste buds change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Generally speaking, not everybody does, and that's
Hmm.
perfectly fine. There's a huge Moscato industry for a reason, and
Absolutely.
I'm not putting down Moscato. Love a good light one on a Sunday morning, or a nice German Riesling. So there are
Mhm.
places in the world for sweet wine. Do not disparage them.
Mhm. No, I
Places
mean,
for all wine.
Look, I celebrate everybody's individuality and their desire to, if they want sweet wine, they can have it.
Exactly.
It's just not in my house right now, right?
Understood. And
It's
I
just
won't
not
bring any
there.
over next time I see you.
Appreciate
Um,
it, man.
so yeah, no,
But
I'll bring you something a little more your style, Nick.
love that.
Uh,
But
and
as you think about the compliance around this, right, and understanding it's a lot of it's inertia, it's a lot of it is, there's not a lot of tech forward in that, and I think it's like one of the industries that's being modernized more slowly. But you spoke a little bit about some of the level of effort associated with all of these state reports. What happens if you make mistakes or you don't do it? Like, what's the downside for these wineries if they get them wrong?
So yeah, that's a great question. And it really gets to kind of why this is happening now, because
Hmm.
there are a couple other companies coming into this space, and there's been a little activity on the private equity side last year with Performant Capital rolling up a Avalar of beverage alcohol into a new company called BevLogic. Uh, so yeah, it's a great question. What happens? First thing that happens is they get a request.
Hmm.
Says, hey, can you pay your taxes? You haven't paid your
Hmm.
taxes. It depends on the state, obviously. Some states are very heavy on their enforcement and have very strict regulation. Let me use one state as an example, is Tennessee will level up to a $58,000 fine and a federal injunction
Hmm.
if you violate their out of state shipping laws. That's the highest level of enforcement that I've heard. It's largely these are tax collectors who are trying to fund their state and trying to get people to follow the rules. So these aren't scary people, quite frankly. They're just trying to get you to follow the rules. So first thing they'll do is ask you to follow the rules and pay some taxes.
Hmm.
If you don't do that over time, they will suspend your license. And then
Hmm.
you are not allowed to ship into that state. Now, there is a gray market where people do break the rules.
Hmm.
Just as examples are, there was a study in Virginia a few years ago where they found 30%, 7% of all shipments into the state were unlicensed.
Wow.
Texas found a similar study a couple of years ago, also 55%. And recently there was a sting operation in, I believe it was Massachusetts,
Hmm.
where they just asked wine to be shipped, and it was 100% failure on checking
Hmm.
of ID. So states are noticing, states are enforcing, they're changing some of the laws.
Hmm.
Maine recently changed one of their laws
Hmm.
to create a bottle bill law, mirroring Michigan's law. Though some states are also opening up. Tennessee is allowing direct-to-consumer wine shipping. Delaware will allow it for the first time later this year.
It's awesome.
So now it's 49 of the 50 states will allow it. Still just one more to go.
Who's hold,
Uh,
hold out?
Mississippi.
Oh, I mean that makes sense. I'm not surprised. Excuse me. And then no, and so like it makes sense that there's a huge gray market as well. Considering all of that, everything there, and so your system essentially takes all the orders that you get and um
Yeah.
generate
So
because I would assume like it's like like
part of the
forms
problem is
are.
it's hard
Go
to
ahead.
be compliant.
Yeah.
People don't want to break the law, in
Hmm.
my general experience. When it comes to things like your sales, your excise taxes, like they're a cost of doing business. They are not something, they're just built into the cost of the business. So, generally speaking, people do want to be compliant, but they also want to sell their product,
Absolutely.
and they know that there is onerous rules involved. So they try to follow the rules. So,
Hmm.
what can they do if they're trying to follow the rules now? There's only really a couple options right now today before we existed. So we'll do as things sits today
Hmm.
for a small winery, there's essentially two options. You can use a product called Vino Shipper, which is an interesting model where they do not require that you have your license in every state that you ship to. That business model was ruled illegal in Virginia a few years ago. So if you're in the mid-Atlantic or California, anywhere, and you want to ship to Virginia, you need to get at least, and nine other states, so 10 states that Vino Shipper doesn't work, you need to have another service of some kind. So you're either going to be on your own site if you want to ship there. So you're like a North Carolina based winery, a Maryland winery, and you want to ship to Virginia, one of your largest customer bases.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have your own system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're kind of forced to have your own system no matter what. And then you're on a platform like a Shopify or Commerce 7.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Commerce 7 bought one of their largest competitors, Wine Direct, and is now the largest platform for selling wine.
Mm-hmm.
They do not have a compliance piece as part of it. There are some options for compliance, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not built into the platform. So you're essentially because of what it is, you need to have your own license in the state you're in. You need to have your license in the states that you want to ship to, and you need to have a website and a shipping way to do that. So if you're a small winery, maybe you're using like a Vino shipper, but then you're limited to only 38 states that they ship to. If you're a mid-sized winery, you're handling it all yourself. You're just doing it yourself. There's not another option. You may be using a consultant for your compliant, an outside tech service to try to coordinate these things. If you're one of the big ones out there, and the wine industry is largely concentrated at the top.
Right. What are the
You're
large?
you
Go ahead.
They're using a company called Ship Compliant or Sobo Ship Compliant or BevLogic, and
Right.
they only go after an enterprise class,
Mm-hmm.
and they do have some automations in there. 6 month setup. It's an ERP though,
Yeah.
so you got to buy an ERP to make it work,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to
Yeah.
buy all the integrations to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have done is say that all sounds way too hard. What
Mm-hmm.
can we do to make it simple and easy? Which is what tech should do.
Mm-hmm.
Tech should make your life easier, not harder.
Yep.
So this is what we did. We said, okay, whatever platform you're on, you got to get reports to all these states no matter what. We'll let you take your reports from any platform, any one of these, plus the others that are out there, and we'll generate those reports in those 30 seconds, drag and drop. Right now, through drag and drop through CSVs, and then it connects automatically through the CSVs, generates through Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as we develop the product and improve it, we'll have the direct connections to states, and they'll have the state reporting built into it,
Yeah.
and the federal reporting, those things. But as we stand right now, that onerous process of taking those reports from all those different systems, even if you're a smaller winery on two different systems,
Mm-hmm.
you got to consolidate them somehow. And if you are on one of these platforms, you're not able to ship to certain states, so you're limiting your sales.
Mm-hmm.
And several states will allow you your in-state shipper's license for a zero cost. So you're paying a 10% to ship in-state when you already own that license for free. The economics on that platform do not make sense
Mm-hmm.
unless you are at a very, very small production level.
Right.
And okay, need to be
Yeah.
placed for everybody. But
Mm-hmm.
a mid-sized winery, a growing winery, a place that you like to go visit and maybe
Mm-hmm.
order wine from, make quality stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they are spending hours, and I mean hours, and multiple personnel
Mm-hmm.
just trying to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make life simple. Let's make it
Yeah.
easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How have you been received in the market? Because I know you guys, I know it's new, right? I know it's
It's
very.
new. Yeah, it's new. We did I took it on the road and did a tour of wineries here locally in the
Mm-hmm.
Mid-Atlantic, North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland in the fall. And we were very well received, confirmed the problem is real, and everybody's looking at their tech stack this year.
Mm-hmm.
Here, we do have some active pilots going. Multiple CFOs from wineries have used the exact same word,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic,
Nice.
which is kind of awesome that they all
Yeah.
use the same word, and I didn't ask them to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but because of what we're providing is not just the ease of turning regulatory pain into a just part of your process, because it won't go away.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can make it just part of your process, it's also giving them a user interface that gives them insights
Mm-hmm.
that the data is there. They just haven't been able to access it. As an
Mhm.
example,
Yeah, absolutely. No, and go ahead.
um, we will automatically show you your top 20 sales by customer or by wine gallon
Hmm.
for up to 7 years. So your
Amazing.
entire historicals from any platform,
Hmm.
you, you can learn, you can decide based upon what is selling now, what you should plant or
Hmm.
be more focused on for the next couple of years based upon the trends within your own sales.
Right.
That level of that industry level of data is where we want to go for the industry and what we will be providing in the future so
Hmm.
that the industry can know the trends based upon what people are actually buying.
Yeah.
And we provide additional insights with our product, and we'll provide additional insights as time goes along. But it
Hmm.
really is just taking that process that you're already doing, or these wineries, these wine shippers are already doing, and making it better.
Hmm.
And then once it's better, making it even better
Right.
because the technology is here to do that. This
Hmm.
is what AI is allowing in when it's directed by people who are to understand their industries. This
Hmm.
is really the second level of AI. We were kind of in the first level with the large language models and stuff that happened for the public. There's a lot of
Hmm.
stuff that's happened in research and things that's well beyond
Yeah.
what we as the public are even aware of, and even
Hmm.
you and I that are high level users are not aware of. But for
Hmm.
the public, we're now reaching the second level where you're seeing, and I'm seeing it in other areas, not just my own, where you're
Hmm.
seeing this applied learning or machine learning, AI, whatever term you prefer to use, where you're
Hmm.
able to take these large data sets, like a sales process, like wine, which is a huge data set,
Hmm.
and make it usable for
Hmm.
businesses, for consumers in a quick and easy way. People are already using Chat GPT as an example to help with wine recommendations, but it's not a specialist. It doesn't know your
Yeah.
flavor profile. It doesn't know the winemakers are not telling Chat
Hmm.
GPT the details of the brix levels in their wine or the residual sugars, those
Yeah.
sort of
It's
scientific details.
also it's also, I mean, it's a large language model, right? And I think
Yeah.
that, I've mentioned this a couple of times on recent episodes, that, those of you who've been listening know that, I think that like I don't want an AI sommelier trained on the whole internet, right? Like first, like all the performance issues that we have around, performance issues and that we have in the industry. In addition to that, power usage, things like that. When you're running with a bigger data set, it's going to take more energy, right? Like that's just it is what it is. It makes sense. But as you look at like a small curated data set that you train as someone like a train an AI sommelier on, where you would have exclusively, you know, like things from reputable sources, like that would be a different story. Do you think AI sommeliers have a future?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitively. And I will tell you multiple reasons why they do.
Please, please.
One is the public demands it more than anything else. The simple fact is that people will have intimate conversations and confessions with their technology that they will not with a person. Just use a simple example of walking into a big wine store. People you they have an idea of what they want when they walk in, at least an idea, but they
Hmm.
sometimes get scared and overwhelmed in the moment. I've
Hmm.
actually seen people walk into Total Wine, turn around and walk out
Hmm.
because they just couldn't handle the choices.
Hmm.
And wine is a subject like that where people who are getting into it or unfamiliar with it often feel intimidated by it.
Hmm.
Technology allows the consumer to not feel intimidated by the subject from
Hmm.
one end. From a training and learning standpoint, you can accelerate the learning of a wine lover, a
Hmm.
sommelier, a wait staff so much faster
Yeah.
with the combination of tasting the wine and enforced with technology.
Hmm.
It's not one or the other. It is both, and it's just a new version of what's already been done. Wine
Yeah.
shelf talkers have
Hmm.
existed for a long time. They're just paper versions. Now we're moving it to a tech interactive version.
Hmm.
So that those two reasons, and of course the third one, it's beyond consumer demand, the public the training levels that you can do is that the producers are going to demand it in terms
Mhm.
of, and the industry itself is going to demand it. Think about your experience walking into a big restaurant that has like a 10-page wine list.
Yeah.
Is it usually a pleasant wine experience, or is it, do you know more than the wait staff?
Um, I mean, I don't, so first, I never assume I know more than the wait staff or the sommeliers there. Just
Not the
because,
sommeliers.
yeah.
Sommeliers will know,
Well,
but
the wait staff probably because they're just selling the wine
right.
largely. What I do usually is I just let somebody like you pick the wine. And if I'm not, like, I think about, like, I mean, I know like what varietals I like more, right? Like I like a Cab Sauv, I like a Chianti,
You're
I like a Cab Franc, I like some of these other things. And
the
so I'll just like look for ones that are those, right? Or I
ones
look
that are
for,
those. The classic story, as we all know, there's even a wine called this, is you point to the second cheapest by varietal.
uh-huh,
Is, because people don't want to feel like they don't want to feel like they're being pushed to spend something they don't want to spend, but they don't want to feel cheap either. And they want to get something they like more than anything else.
uh-huh,
So that experience of, I'll have the second cheapest cab because I know I like cab, or
uh-huh.
whatever the varietal
Yeah.
is not a pleasant experience. And we can use technology to make that a pleasant experience. I'll
Yeah.
just use an example. So now take you go into that Duke's restaurant, whatever,
Uh-huh.
fake Duke's restaurant, and the AI sommelier already knows your flavor profile because
Uh-huh.
it's tied to your actual flavor profile. You've told it, oh, I
Uh-huh.
like this one, I like that one. And it knows the inventory,
Uh-huh.
and it knows to pair that inventory by the food that is in, the specials or
Uh-huh.
the menu of that restaurant. Rather than give you a definitive choice, it says you might like these few bottles.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now that waiter has that interaction with you, or the sommelier has that informed interaction with you,
Uh-huh.
where they say, okay, we have this in stock. You like these ones. I've tried this. Because a
Uh-huh.
waiter, a sommelier, there's no way they can try an entire inventory. A, that inventory has probably existed before they worked there and might exist after they work there. So
Uh-huh.
they're trying to sell somebody else's flavor profiles if
Uh-huh.
it's not theirs. This makes that interaction
Uh-huh.
better.
Yeah.
And that's what technology, better, easier,
Uh-huh.
faster for all parties involved.
Uh-huh.
It's low cost, as it shouldn't really cost anything for that level, other than basic operational costs, not some sort of ridiculous level
Uh-huh.
ERP. And if both the consumer and the producers are bought in, the information is all right there and readily available.
Yep.
Uh, we have the AI sommelier. It's a web app you are welcome to use on our website,
Uh-huh.
joyofwine.co. It has the entire wineries or wine database. I started with the TTB database of every wine that's for
Uh-huh.
sale in the US. And from there, I enhanced it multiple times for
Uh-huh.
various pairings and basic recommendations. It, however, is not the heart of what we are developing. It is a
Uh-huh.
long-term back burner project. And there are other companies that are developing AI sommeliers, and I would expect you'll probably see about 10 or so this year
Uh-huh.
come onto the market. But
Yeah.
we have purposely chosen to put this as a slower development for our company um, because the compliance pain is so
Yeah.
real.
No, absolutely not.
And
Yeah.
And when we are ready to use the AI sommelier as a recommendation engine, it will be trained on what people actually like to buy.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
the sales of
Uh-huh.
the wineries in the market. So
Yeah. Dude, so I
Uh,
absolutely pick wines the way you said. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll generally go for the third cheapest one, so people don't think that I'm doing the
that's good,
second
Nick.
cheapest one,
You're not
right?
cheap at all, Nick.
But then the other thing is like I know of a couple of brands that I really like. So like I like any pretty much any wine that Dave Finney makes, I'm here for. So like Prisoner, Oran Swift, the locations, those to me have like I've never had a bad bottle of wine that he's made. And so like that's a safer choice, but like once you don't have one of those on the menu, like then I'm just guessing.
Sure. There are a lot of name brands that are very are excellent wines. I'm not going to disparage them in any way. I love Dave Finney wines,
Hmm.
and he's done some really interesting things with, in particular, some of the property that he owns in the south of France. I believe that's only land he actually owns, as well as being a winemaker of several brands.
What is he doing over there?
I believe it's the FR that he released a few years ago. That one is from his actual property. It's in the Languedoc area, which is in France. The Languedoc in the south of France is a little less controlled as far as the grapes that they are allowed to
Hmm.
plant. So you'll get more interesting or lesser known varietals. Let me put it that way. You'll still
Hmm.
have your Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre blends, but then they'll also have Carignan and a lot more heavy Grenache too, because it's often a little warmer to the south. And but they'll
Hmm.
they'll produce Cab Merlots and things like that. Australians have bought up land there, and right now Australia is probably the leading technological wine purveyor, and there
Okay.
is the Australian style of wine is the very new world style. Penfolds is the big well-known name,
Hmm.
top well-known name of Australian wine, but there are a lot of but the Aussies are making wine and bringing their wine making methods around the world.
Okay.
Uh, just some of the things that happen in the winemaking world, and it's pretty interesting the way things are, the technological advances. They start, Bordeaux did the first big technological advance in the 1800s. Then Spain had some advances, and
What was the advance in the 1800s?
it was really more than anything. The what was going on in France, it was putting standards on anything more than anything else, standards on production and quality. And
Hmm.
that's where you get the system. Your first, second growth Bordeaux's all come from that 1850s. And then the one modification done later to Bordeaux. And then you, of course, had some of the other things that were going on in France itself with, champagne being invented,
Hmm.
which an interesting story. Dom Perignon thought it was a mistake when he first made it and tried to get the bubbles out of his wine.
Really?
And yeah, then enough people liked it that because champagne actually explodes quite often in this, or used to in this cellar,
Hmm.
until he perfected the method of
Hmm.
the second second fermentation in the bottle. Um, so yeah, he was trying to get the bubbles out of his wine.
Interesting.
Uh, but enough people liked it. A happy mistake became one of the greatest wines in the world.
Hmm.
And yeah, so a similar type story, if you will, happened with White Zinfandel and Robert Mondavi. He was not intending to create White Zinfandel.
Hmm.
Perhaps not. People might say it's not the same quality as champagne, but I'm just saying a similar story. A
Hmm.
happy accident um, is that he was trying to make Zinfandel, and
Hmm.
that it simply held too much residual sugar and stayed pink.
Hmm.
And so he's like, well, I got to sell it.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm going to try to sell it. So someone suggested the name White Zinfandel to him. I don't know who it was. I don't remember that
Yeah.
detail. And it went on to become the hot wine for what, 15, 20 years through the mid 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, still a
Absolutely.
large market for White Zinfandel and other sweet whites like that, or sweeter wines like that. So
Yeah, man.
happy accidents sometimes happen with wine
Yeah.
because
That's
it's full
science
of,
for you, though.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's a
how it
little
works.
science, a little magic, a little
Absolutely.
art.
What do you,
So,
yeah, so what are some of like the most interesting regions for like where wine's being grown to you right now? Uh,
oh, that's a great question, Nick. So obviously, California itself is the heart of the American wine growing
mhm,
area. And you do often have experiments going on all throughout California, part of it is California has near perfect weather conditions for growing wine.
Hmm.
But
After when it
starting,
caught fire.
yeah, occasionally catches on fire. Sometimes paradise burns, I guess.
Hmm.
But I
I
would
have
say,
a side note on that. I actually have a really interesting bottle in my collection. I think it's an Orange Swift or Prisoner Wine Company wine that's called Burnt Sacrifice. That is a you remember the wildfires out in Napa like 10
yeah,
years ago? It was made with grapes, like the limited grapes that they had that year. And it's like I had a couple of bottles. You know, every one I've had has been fantastic.
no, that's good because there was definitely some concern that there was going to be some smoke taint in the
Hmm.
wines themselves, but that could also be a pleasant, in the right winemaker could use a smoke
Yeah.
taint to create an interesting wine. So,
Hmm.
again, happy accidents. Sometimes
Yeah.
things that are
Yeah.
devastating. That was pretty devastating. Some of those
Hmm.
wildfires,
It was.
unfortunately, and some wineries really lost. A couple wineries just disappeared because of it. Um, but yeah, so say in California, I do like a lot of what they're doing in Paso Robles.
Hmm.
You have a lot of really interesting wines coming out of that area. Of course, in the Santa Barbara area, that's where they tend to do a lot of the GSM style and field blends. I would say that I'm glad we're not getting as much Petite Syrah blend in everything.
Hmm.
Not that I don't dislike Petite Syrah, right, but it often gets a little too overdone, and there was too much Petite Syrah out in the world for a while. So, and of course, up in Oregon, you always have just amazing things going on in Willamette Valley with the Pinot Noirs there.
Hmm.
I just had a great one from Sebastian Marquette. Shout out there to what the winemaker there is doing. Sebastian, really very tasty Pinot Noir. Um, and Washington State is probably my favorite place for reds. In
Hmm.
particular, yeah. In particular, you get some amazing Syrahs and Merlots from
Hmm.
Washington State. I know people are like, Merlot, Merlot, whatever. I don't care. It's
That's
delicious wine.
all back to that movie Sideways, though, right?
Yes.
Like,
So
you
yeah. Well, more so than that, there was actually a glut of Merlot, much like there was a glut of Petit
know.
Syrah recently, and there was a lot of flabby, overdone Merlots.
Isn't
But yeah.
aren't a lot of the Chiantis up in or in the Northwest fantastic because of the how difficult it is for grapes to grow out there? Or am I
Well, they
getting
have
is that a different wine a different varietal I'm thinking of?
I'm not familiar with many Italian varietals done
Okay.
in that
Maybe
part,
it's
but there are a
it's
lot of
Pinot
different wines
Noir.
growing.
Pinot Noir. That's it. I was
Yes,
getting the mess.
yeah. That
Yeah. See,
Pinot Noir in Oregon is
yeah.
Pinot Noir is known for being the very delicate grape that only likes particular
Hmm.
conditions and places, and it does exceptionally well in Willamette Valley.
Hmm.
So yeah, I like a lot of what I've had from there, and you'll hear that from other people that it is now practically a home of Pinot Noir, much as Burgundy is the home of Pinot Noir. I
Hmm.
would say the other things that I'm finding really interesting are some of the old world varietals that are being done in new and interesting places. I'll use Virginia as an example with Barbersville. They've done some amazing things with some Italian varietals. Their
Okay.
Vermentino is it's a high acid white, and kind of the joke about Italian whites is that they're all like Pinot Grigio, only a little bit different.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's
So,
not actually like Pinot Grigio, but it
mhm,
is does have some similar acidity, some similar citrus notes to it.
mhm,
And they also are growing a Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo is the wine behind Barolo,
mhm,
considered the king of wines, the wine of kings. If you're talking about a grape that is not known to grow anywhere outside of its home area, that is the Nebbiolo grape. It is known to only grow in the Piedmont area in
mhm,
Italy, uh, in a low production, very high acid, kind of difficult grape to deal with, much like Pinot Noir.
mhm.
Uh, they have had they're making a delicious Nebbiolo up at Barbersville.
Okay.
And of course, this year they were named one of their wines, the Octagon, was named top 50 in Wine Spectator.
Wow.
Other things I had a really amazing Pinotage, which
Mhm,
is not known as a great. Oftentimes people find Pinotage very earthy.
Uh-huh.
But I had a very nice Pinotage from a very small vineyard here in Virginia called Greyhaven.
Uh-huh.
Um, and there's a number of vineyards in Virginia and Texas that are using both Spanish and Italian varietals
Uh-huh.
rather than the more traditional French varietals, which are your Cab Merlot, Syrah varietals, where your Italian ones are they're going to be more like your Nebbiolo, Sangiovese is the great behind
Uh-huh.
Chianti, and then Tempranillo is the great red of Spain.
Yeah.
I love a great Tempranillo. So you get a lot of those are growing in warmer areas in like
Right.
Texas Hill Country and
Uh-huh.
Virginia, where they're experimenting with some of those varietals, which, due to both climate change as well as just what we have learned as an industry,
Uh-huh.
works exceptionally well. If you look on a longitude on a global map, Virginia's actually parallel with Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we're much farther south than we
Uh-huh.
feel compared to Europe.
No, that's good.
Whereas Europe is actually a fairly northern wine growing area.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Absolutely. No,
when
100%.
we talked about like Champagne, Germany, those are much northern growing. Uh,
Uh-huh.
that's probably another interesting thing is some of the Rieslings that you're getting. Obviously, people know the Finger Lakes Rieslings. Washington State also has very good Rieslings too,
Uh-huh.
that are more done in that German style where you have that combination of high acid with some underlying sweetness and a lower alcohol level.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I also had some beautiful wine from the Long Island.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rising.
lovely Chardonnay from Long
Yeah.
Island just a couple years ago. Yeah,
Nice.
just a lovely
Yeah.
unoaked Chardonnay that was
Uh-huh.
just beautiful. I am not an ABC.
Uh-huh.
People have those ABCs, anything but Chardonnay or
Uh-huh.
another boring Chardonnay or
Uh-huh.
whatever you choose the title.
Yeah.
I would say that just on a side note, as a wine lover, the single best sip of wine I ever had was a Chardonnay. It was it's called Marquesan. Very, very small production out of the
Uh-huh.
Sonoma Coast area. If you ever get the chance to try it, it is worth it.
Okay.
It is very, very expensive
Well,
because
yeah.
it's very small production.
Uh-huh.
Why is certain wine more expensive than others? Small production, hand harvested, high in this location. All of these things go in to making an exceptional wine in this case.
Uh-huh.
Not everything from a place that meets all of those standards will be an exceptional wine.
Uh-huh.
Usually get at least a good one though.
Yeah.
And that's
No.
why, people know, oh, okay, Napa, I know I can get a good cab. Yes, because it has the requirements that you would
Uh-huh.
expect for a good wine.
Yeah.
And that's why people know wine by location. We're getting more of that in this country. That is what European wine labeling is
Yeah.
location based. So we're
Uh-huh.
getting more of that in this country. But we still shop by varietal, which is
Absolutely.
how we are trained and we learned wine. So,
Yeah, no, 100%. And then there's some like I agree with you. There's some really good wineries in Virginia. My favorite is actually the one that you and I met at.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
right over here. Used to be is it
it's
Lost
Lost
Mountain?
Mountain. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would describe Lost Mountain as
that place is fantastic.
Jefferson's dream
Hmm.
realized. Not only are they making, just great wine there, they're the location, the quality of the facility,
Oh yeah.
the production levels there are world class.
Mm-hmm.
For wine industry people, I'm going to give you a little insight because they'll know this one. Lost Mountain, I believe, is the only location on the East Coast that owns an optical sorter.
Hmm.
For non-wine industry people, an optical sorter is a special device that sorts grapes when they're harvested by laser, measuring the ripeness and various chemicals in there, the Brix levels, residual sugars, things like that, to know how well each individual grape is ready to be harvested. For the grapes that don't meet all those standards, are moved away from
Oh,
the wine that they make.
they're
They're
shot
shot.
out of
They're
their
shot out with air. Yeah,
with
it's
air
cool.
guns. Like it's super
Yeah,
cool.
it's super cool. It is super cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's considered a tremendous investment to use an
Hmm.
optical sorter. I believe they're the only ones on the East Coast that own one.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to put an ad out for this place. I am a member. This is the only winery I actually belong as a member to.
Mhm.
And it is tremendous. It
Yeah.
is now owned by a French family that owns a couple of second growth Bordeaux's. as well as a couple of top-end Burgundy wines and some Loire Valley wines. It is their first foray out of France. They did, you know, things that have happened in wine, interesting things, and where to get great wine from.
Mm-hmm.
Chile, a lot of a lot of world-class wine producers have moved down to Chile to make wine there because you have
Mm-hmm.
all the same advantages that you do in California. It's a narrow
Mm-hmm.
area. Argentina always is doing something interesting. And wine from the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
If you want really good, just interesting wines,
Mm-hmm.
those three areas you can usually find something, I think, in a price range that's a little more reasonable than some of the top end
Mm-hmm.
places in the world. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, man. No, 100%. And as Chris, as we move towards wrapping up, man, are there any other points you'd like to make about, compliance, joy of wine, the wine industry at large for folks out there that, that don't have, that may be curious about these things?
Sure. There is one point I would really like to make, Nick, and I really appreciate the chance to say this. I started this company, I called it Joy of Wine Company because I believe wine is joyful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at history, look at how humans live, we have always celebrated, at least in the West, we have celebrated great things with spirits, with wine. So, compliance, this painful part of the business, we're trying to make a joyful part too. We say if our product is not a joy to use on a busy Tuesday afternoon, it is not done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a standard that not only can we as a company live by, but this is an industry that is ready for providing joyful experiences. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
industry is built on. So I want to help make the industry itself more joyful to the people who are part of it.
Oh, man.
And
I
thanks.
love that. I love that,
Thanks.
Chris. Really appreciate that, man. Everybody out there, check out joywine.co. Check out what Chris is doing. Some really, really cool stuff in the space. Chris, thank you so much for coming on Robots and Red Tape, man. This has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed like nerding out about AI and wine and more with you, man. It's been a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been great, Nick, and this has been a lot of fun. If anybody just wants to talk wine with me, I am a genuine wine lover. I hope that has come through here. Not just a big tech nerd too,
Mhm.
which I also am. I'm happy to do this. This is a lot of fun, Nick. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Really appreciate you, man. And everybody out there, thank you so much for listening to Robots and Red Tape. As always, I hope you're having a wonderful day.